You're probably watching this because you've just found out you're pregnant. So first things first, congratulations. And if this isn't something that you were expecting, then there's a few useful links in the description down below, some resources that you might find helpful. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so you've just had a positive pregnancy test. So the first thing that you're going to do is call your GP and tell them that you're pregnant. Once you've had a chat with the receptionist and let them know, they will either refer you themselves or send you a text message with a link with a self-referral to the midwifery team. So essentially, clicking on that link and doing a self-referral is basically like booking your care for having your baby. Once you're in contact with the midwives, they're going to send you through 2 appointments. The first one is an 8-week face-to-face appointment with a midwife, and then the second appointment is your 12-week scan. I'll just quickly run you through what you can expect at the 8-week appointment. So it involves a pretty hefty questionnaire that covers your medical history, your partner's medical history, and both sides of your family. They also ask you lots of questions about support, whether you feel supported, what kind of support you have. Be completely honest with these questions because there's so many resources available for people that don't have loads of support, whether that's like chatting to a pregnancy counsellor or, I don't know, being pointed in the right direction for different groups that are available for you to learn certain things. There's loads of support out there. So be completely honest with if there's anything that you're struggling with or any way that you could do with some more support, and you will get that. The 8-week appointment also involves blood tests, quite a few blood tests, but they do it all through one needle, but they do take what looks like a fair amount of blood, but I mean, it's probably not. They check for infectious diseases, your blood group, blood count, etc. There's a few other things, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but they check for a good amount of things, and then they'll let you know the results, obviously, when they come through. One thing that I'd recommend doing when you find out you're pregnant is downloading an app that can track your pregnancy. I feel like this helps massively in connecting with your baby and knowing how your baby is developing at that moment in time. So I actually have 2 apps. One of them is Pregnancy and the other one is Baby Center. So they literally do exactly what I just said. You can follow the development of your baby. They compare it to whatever things you want it to be compared to. Mine is fruit. So at the moment, my baby is the size of a peach and it's fully formed, and it's just at the moment getting its own identity through its fingerprints, which is the coolest thing ever. I'd really recommend that. Download an app, follow the progress of your baby's development. It just helps me feel kind of closer to them, and I like to know how they're developing. It's such a cool thing. So I would recommend doing that. Another thing that is useful to do when you first find out that you're pregnant, especially if it's your first pregnancy, because obviously you won't have experienced this before, is to go on the NHS website and look through the list of foods and drinks that you should avoid, just things in general that you should avoid when you're pregnant. One thing I will say is there's a lot of new science-based evidence that some of the foods and drinks that you should avoid is a little outdated. Go and grab yourself a copy of the No Guilt Pregnancy Guide. I felt a lot more informed and a lot more in control of my decisions once I had read that book. So would highly recommend reading that, as well as checking out the things that you should avoid during pregnancy on the NHS website. Another thing that you might want to do at this point is actually tell people, and that is completely up to you and your timeline and how you decide you want to do it with your partner. For my first pregnancy, we actually didn't tell anyone until we were about 11 weeks pregnant. We just felt that we wanted to keep it to ourselves. We wanted to kind of make sure that everything was okay first before we shared it. And that's what worked for us the first time round. With the second pregnancy, with my pregnancy now, I told my sister the day that I did the test and got the positive. We told our parents within a few days. And I told a couple of friends quite early on. So we told a lot more people a lot earlier this time round, but it's complete personal preference. It just depends on how you feel about it and who you want to share it with, and no one can be mad at you for not telling them. I have a friend actually, they didn't tell anyone, not even family, until they were 20 weeks pregnant, and that's what worked for them. So if you're similar, you don't have to tell anyone at any point. If you want to tell people the day that you find out, go for it. It's completely up to you. And lastly, what I will say at this point is that it can feel like a really long slog from finding out that you're pregnant to having your first appointment. I think it's about 4 weeks, because most people find out they're pregnant when they're 3 to 4 weeks, and then you don't see a midwife until you're 8 weeks. And that can feel really long and intense. Like, is everything okay? Should I be feeling this way? Shouldn't I be feeling more? I definitely felt with my first pregnancy, like, I'm not sure everything's okay because I don't feel that unwell. And you hear horror stories of people vomiting all day. And then, whilst that does happen to a lot of people, that didn't happen to me the first time round. So I was really kind of like, oh, is everything okay? But it was, thankfully. So we're really grateful for that. But this time round, I could tell even before I had done the pregnancy test, I didn't feel right, but I assumed that it was PMS leading up to my period. This time, I have felt a lot more nauseous right from that positive test up until about now. And I'm about 13 weeks at the point of filming this, and it's only really in the last couple of days started to calm down. So every pregnancy is different, and it has reminded me this time round, like, I'm definitely, the hormones are still there. There's nothing to worry about at this point because I still feel a certain way. Whereas when I was pregnant with Juno, I was like, I don't feel unwell. Like, is she okay? Is everything okay? But it was, which is amazing. And I just want to add at this point as well that whether you're trying for a baby or not, finding out that you're pregnant for the first time is super overwhelming. It's the best news ever, and it's so great. If you're feeling up and down in your emotions, then you're totally normal, and it is completely fine to be feeling that way. I still get that now, even with my second pregnancy. Sometimes I'm like, I'm smashing this is going to be great, I'm going to be the best mum of two. And then other times I'm like, oh, what am I doing? I think everyone feels like that, and you can totally allow yourself the space to feel like that, and don't beat yourself up about it. You're not going to be a bad mum just because you're doubting yourself now. So that's it, guys. That is what you do when you find out that you're pregnant. I hope this video was helpful and you've enjoyed this part of the series. Next week's going to be a fun video. We're going to go through the 12-week scan. So what to expect at the 12-week scan. So make sure you're subscribed for that video and turn the notifications on if you want to get a little notification when the video comes up. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week for my weekly upload. Lots of love. Bye.